day. This is a very serious broadcast today. I'm going to be highlighting some major failures and just incompetencies and discrepancies and liberties being taken by the current mayor when it comes to your money. And I'm going to be highlighting many things today. I want to show you a few things I'm going to talk about right now. This is one of the headlines I'm going to share, and you can see here, Sadiq Khan shamed. Transport for London bosses' pay increased by £10 million as London Transport struggles because we know it's going bankrupt. The next headline you're going to see is this. Sadiq Khan reveals his biggest ever hike of council tax share at nearly 10%. A 10% raise in your taxes right now in the biggest recession we've seen in 300 years. And finally, this is one of the slides I'm going to show you, and that is this. Transport for London spends £1 million on luxury flights and hotels under the current mayor's watch. And this is just a few of the many headlines I want to share with you today, because I want to talk about what he is trying to hide from you. Because if we look at his social media platforms right now, what do we see? All we see is lockdown, lockdown, lockdown. He's using fear as a weapon to scare you into his agenda. He's not thinking about your future, your jobs, your businesses, your children's education, their future. He is just trying to lock you down. And while he does that, we see extreme financial mismanagement taking place. And I want to address this right now, because I'm not talking about some incompetent politician with absolutely zero business experience. That's true. That's what he is. I'm also not talking about someone who's never run an organization or a business in his life. He's never held anyone accountable. That's true. That's true as well. What I'm actually talking about is this: a blatant disregard for your hard-earned money. That's what's happening here. And that's at a time when most of us don't have any money left. Our savings are declining. We're losing our jobs. We have no chance to work. And this man is right now spending your money, but it gets worse. He's also raising your taxes. And today I want to show you how he's wasted tens and hundreds of millions of pounds of your taxpayer money on frivolous expenses that should have never been paid for. And I want to show you at the same time how he has bankrupted Transport for London nearly twice. He's defunded the police. He's defunded the fire brigade. And he's failed to account for £1.8 billion that he was given to build affordable housing in this city. Where are the homes? None have been built. And if that wasn't enough, lastly, I want to show you how he's done all of this and had the audacity to ask you for more money. And that's what he's doing lately. You saw the headline recently. He's just raised your council taxes by 10%. 10%. During the biggest recession in 300 years. But it gets worse. He has raised and extended the congestion charges. We've all seen the headlines. Not only are they up, not only are they 24/7, not only are they 7 days a week, he's now extended the congestion charge zone out even further, taking more of your money. He's also raised your transportation fares. This comes from a mayor who campaigned in 2016 to freeze fares. And now he's raised your fares and he's going to raise them again. And I want to talk about all of these issues today because they're being swept under the rug, they're being hidden from you, and he's putting in front of your face the lockdown agenda, the panic from the pandemic. Meanwhile, he's wasting your money, raising your taxes, and mismanaging all of his departments. And I want to ask you some questions now, because all of you are live on many platforms here, and I want to hear from you because it's you, the taxpayer and the citizen, that I want to hear from, because it's you who matters. It's your vote. It's your future. And I want to ask you right now how you feel about this. So please answer the following questions and type them into wherever you're watching this, or put these in the comments after the broadcast and see what people are saying in these comments. If you want to know what's really happening, look at the comments. This is the first question I want to ask you. Do you think that taxpayer money should be spent by your mayor on six-figure salaries, on gold-plated pensions, on first-class flights, on his personal PR, and on a publicly funded political campaign New Year's Eve show? Do you believe that? Please leave your comments below. Next, do you think that during a recession, the biggest one in the past 300 years, that the mayor should increase your transport fares, should increase your council taxes, and also increase your congestion charges? Do you think that's fair? Please leave me your questions below and comments. Next, do you think the mayor should allow the TfL to go bankrupt while simultaneously defunding the police, defunding the fire brigade, and also building no homes with the 1.8 billion pounds he got from the government? Do you think that's correct? And lastly, do you think we need new leadership? Do you think we need new ideas? Do you think we need to take London, the UK, maybe even your city in a new direction? So please leave me your comments below. Again, please stay tuned. And if you're here with me now, please share this video to your social media contacts, your email list, to anybody you think that this is important for. And it's important for all of us. This is happening right now, right under our noses. No one's talking about it, which is why we are here as independent media to show you what's really going on behind the scenes. So today, I've got 3 parts to this broadcast. And again, you are part of this. I want to hear from your comments. The first, I want to talk about how the current mayor of London is wasting taxpayer money, and I'm going to give you details. First of all, you're going to see how Transport for London bosses have seen their pay increase by 10 million pounds, all the while TfL is struggling and nearly going bankrupt twice. You're also going to see how TfL bonuses have skyrocketed during lockdown, spending 12 million pounds on bonuses. You're also going to see how the TfL pensions have increased by 828 million pounds under the current mayor. That's a lot of money, 828 million pounds. What could that be doing right now for our mental health, for our economy, for our children? Think about those numbers. Next, I'm going to show you how those TfL perks are being spent without any regard for the taxpayer on luxury flights and hotels. And then I'm going to show you how 42 million pounds is being spent a year on frivolous expenses like taxis, vending machines, luxury coffee machines, and water coolers. But it gets worse. The current mayor is also spending £1 million per year on his own personal PR. £1 million, imagine that. He's also spent over £1 million on a customer service survey, a customer satisfaction survey, £1 million. And finally, we're going to talk about his £1.5 million publicly funded political campaign New Year's Eve show. This was never approved. We were never told it was going to happen, and it was £1.5 million of taxpayer money for what was really a political agendized campaign for mayor. It's unacceptable. Next part, I want to show you how he's just failed economically in mismanagement, failed all the departments that report to him. We've seen TfL go bankrupt nearly twice. We've seen him defund the police by 110 million pounds. We've seen him defund the fire brigade. The fire brigade, these are people we rely on to save us in times of fires. We saw how much they were needed in the Grenfell tragedy. He's defunded them by 25 million pounds. And we've also seen how the mayor was given 1.8 billion pounds to build affordable housing. Where did that money go? Last thing I want to talk about is how your taxes are being raised right now to fund his wastage and mismanagement. We're going to talk about the council tax increase by 10%. We're going to talk about him raising your transport fares and, of course, jacking up your congestion charges, extending those 24/7, and also extending those ranges. And finally, I'm going to do something I do on every single one of my broadcasts. I'm going to give you the solutions. There's one thing I can't stand, and that's people that complain and bring me problems. I want you to bring me a solution. And I have the solution as your next mayor of London. And to be honest, I've been doing this for 30 years because I have something the current mayor doesn't have and never will have. And that is real world industry and business experience. I have worked as a mechanical engineer for Ford Motor Company in the States, one of the largest automakers. I have worked for the Aerospace Corporation on the Galileo space probe. I have worked as the CFO in a technology startup. I have worked on Wall Street for banks. I have worked in the City of London, and I have worked as an entrepreneur here for the past 10 years building my own independent media broadcasting company. At every one of these points, I have been held accountable. When I was working at Ford Motor Company, we were building a car to be built 4 years from now. I was working on the emissions program for it, and deadlines had to be met and budgets had to be met, or guess what? I got fired and the project got scrapped. When I was working on the Galileo space probe, if we didn't deliver, then a major space project failed. There were consequences. Same when I worked on Wall Street and same when I worked here as an entrepreneur. When I fail to deliver my promises, when I go over budget, my business gets eliminated and my job is eliminated and my family doesn't have any money to live on. There are real consequences in the real world. But with politicians, when they fail, what do? They just ask you for more money. They ask the government for a bailout, they raise your taxes, and they just hope you're going to vote for them again. And let's be honest, the current mayor of London, he knows he has your vote because your parents voted for his party, Labour. And he knows you're going to vote him in. So he's not even trying right now to not waste your money. And I'm going to show you that I have a plan to get us out of this budget deficit and this hole. And that's to get London back to work. And I've got all the detailed policies. And again, you've got someone that's going to do this job that knows how to hold people accountable, how to balance a budget, how to be fiscally responsible, how to make deals. And our current mayor of London is clearly lacking that. I have already had key conversations with key stakeholders in Transport for London, in the police department, in the housing community, in technology, in business sectors, in financial sectors, and some of the largest employers in the city. I've already had those conversations, and they all agree that I have a plan that can get London back to work, and I'm going to be sharing that with you later. So just want to bring you up to speed if this is your first time here. As you might know, I am going to be your next mayor of London. And on May 6th, I am looking for you to tell this city that we need a change. And you probably come to my website, it's brianformayor.london, and you can learn all about my policies. But we want to take London in a new direction. We want to put London back to work. We want to stop wasting your money. I want to stop raising your taxes. And I want to run this city like a business. That's what I want to do. No more cost overruns, no more lack of accountability, no more gold-plated pensions, no more bonuses during times of recession. I've never seen a company run that way, and that's not the way we're going to run this city. And apparently, my ideas are resonating with you, the voters and the public, and I very much appreciate. This is an honor for me to represent you in City Hall. And if you look at the bookmakers here, Paddy Power, one of the largest bookmakers in the world, they currently have us in second place. We are moving into first right now with the incumbent mayor looking in his rearview mirror, and we're coming up right behind him because everyone knows that he has failed and we have the best ideas. And the conservative candidate, who usually right now would be in second place, is far, far behind. In some bookmakers, 20 and 30 to 1 odds of winning this. So now, this is a two-horse race. We plan on winning this. And again, just to put this in perspective, we are making history as we speak. Never in political, mayoral history in London has an independent candidate ever been in second place. So this is massive, and it shows me that the people have spoken. It shows me that you have looked at my policies and you are tired of this two-party system. You're tired of these career politicians with their vested interests, their backroom deals, their history of never making change, of never innovating, of never solving problems, of never educating the public. All they do is use fear as a tool, ask you for more bailouts, raise your taxes, give you excuses, and yet they expect you to vote for them in the next election. I think it's important that we send out a signal to your mayor, to the two-party system, that we will no longer tolerate this. Enough is enough. Enough is enough. Let's vote to take London in a new direction. I look forward to representing you as the next mayor of London, and I'm very excited to do it. We are building a battle bus, and you might have seen some of the pictures being leaked on social media, but we are building the Brian for Mayor battle bus, and I'm building it for this one reason, because I want to come see you. I want to do something that is very strange for most politicians to do, and something you don't see the current mayor doing at all. You don't see any other candidates doing. Something I've already been doing. I've been to Tower Hamlets, I've been to Hackney, and I am coming to every single borough in London. We are on a 32-borough tour, and don't worry, I'm coming to the City of London as well. I'm not going to leave you out, and I want to talk to you, I want to listen to you, and I want to find out what is your challenge and how I can help and how I can serve you. And that's what this bus is all about. We are going to be coming to every single borough. I want to talk to you and I want to find out what's going on with you. So I want you to make sure, come to our website. It's brianformayor.london. It's already been shared over 500,000 times. Imagine that. Our Brian for Mayor website has been shared over 500,000 times. I've got 12 detailed policies. I have better policies than the current mayor of London. More details, more actionable evidence than any other candidate out there. I have videos for every single policy. You can volunteer on that page. You can share my assets. It's all there. So please go share that with your friends. Tell them about what we're doing here. It's very, very important. The last thing I want to talk about before I get into today's broadcast is I need you to register to vote. And I meet so many people on the streets. They all tell me two things. First of all, they say, I hate the current mayor. Please get him out of office. They all say that. And I say, we're on that. Don't worry. The second thing they say is, I don't know if I'm registered to vote. Sometimes they're not citizens. Sometimes they've never voted in their life. And it always makes me think, you know what? If you don't register, we can't win. That's the truth. If you don't register to vote today, it's very possible you're going to get 3 more years of the current mayor's nonsense. So if you want, take that anger and use it for a good direction. Go to votefirst.london. This is a website we have set up here. It's free to go to. It takes you less than 300 seconds, and you can register to vote literally in less than 5 minutes. It's easy to do. You just have to be a resident of the city. You'll get something in the post, and we can be ready on May 6th to make history and take London in a new direction. So go to votefirst.london. Please share that website. Ask your friends and family. Say, okay, I know you want to take London in a new direction. I know you hate the current mayor. I know you believe in Brian Rose, but are you registered to vote? Because if you don't vote on May 6th, you are complicit in 3 more years of this financial mismanagement, of wasting taxpayer money. So you've got to register to vote and then vote on May 6th. Otherwise, what are we talking about? We're actually not talking about anything. So please do that, and I look forward to making history with you on May 6th. All right, let's get into what I'm talking about today because this is serious stuff. Again, if you're here with me right now, please share this video via all your social media channels. There's a sidebar probably here somewhere. Share it on your WhatsApp group. Share it on your Telegram groups, your Signal group. Share it everywhere because it's important that people see this message. Let's talk about the headlines here. Firstly, I want to talk about how the current mayor of London is wasting your taxpayer money. Let's look at the first headline here, and that is this. I'll read it out. Sadiq Khan shamed as Transport for London bosses' pay increased by £10 million as London Transport struggles. And when you look into the details, it's actually shocking because TfL salaries over £100,000 has shown that the people earning more than 6 figures, that's a lot of money, that's a big salary in this economy, has increased to 557 people since the current mayor took office in the capital almost 5 years ago now. Can you imagine that? 557 people earning 6 figures right now. And so the bill for those 6-figure salaries has increased 16% to now an eye-watering £73 million over that period. £73 million spent on 6-figure salaries. Is that what you think is acceptable? Is that where your taxpayer money should go? I don't think so. Take a look at this next headline. You see it again. Over 500 TfL staff earn more than £100,000 despite a £1.6 billion taxpayer bailout. Can you imagine? This is not the way I would run a business. And the article goes on to say, in total, 654 staff employed by the Greater London Authority and its subsidiary bodies, which includes Transport for London, Met Police, Fire Brigade, and the Mayor's Office, received payments in excess of £100,000. But of course, Transport for London is the highest number of the staff, with 518 receiving more than £100,000. Of these, 114 received more than £150,000 per year. I'm not quite sure what you make, but that's a lot of money, especially during a recession, okay? The highest paid employee, the TfL boss Michael Brown, received, wait for it, £508,301 in total annual salary. Over £500,000 salary in the greatest recession in 300 years, when his own organization is being bailed out to the tune of billions and billions of pounds. Does that sound fair to you? Does that sound like the mayor is doing his job? And of course, that also includes taking home the biggest bonus of £133,000. And we know Transport for London is going bust, and it's getting paid millions and billions of pounds in bailout money. And it just gets worse and worse, because you see this next headline and you can see what's happening. The mayor is spending £12 million on TfL bonuses despite these massive bailouts. And it's hard to really see what's going on here, because this article goes on to say that Sadiq Khan has chosen to pay out this eye-watering bill despite the taxpayer forking out £3.3 billion in bailouts for Transport for London. And one of the London Assembly members branded it, quote, disgraceful that the mayor is paying out and awarding millions of pounds in TfL bonuses while repeatedly asking the taxpayer for bailouts. And she goes on to say, and I quote, it's clear that we are going to need Transport for London back on track. And in order to get this, we need new leadership at City Hall. London needs a mayor who will put Londoners' priorities before bonuses, press officers, and self-promotion. And I agree with that, and that's exactly what we stand for. But it gets worse. Look at the next headline, and you can see this from the Telegraph. Sadiq Khan accused of squandering millions on gold-plated London transport staff pensions. And when you get into the details, honestly, it's hard for me even to read this stuff out. I find it actually quite disgusting. And the article says this: TfL pension fund increases more than £828 million. That's been misspent on gold-plated pensions at the Transport for London. And it says, quote, Sadiq Khan could have fixed this at the start of his term back in 2016 and saved almost £1 billion. Instead, he left pensions unreformed, made a mess of TfL's finances, and put services at risk, unquote. And that means that the mayor overpaid £828 million in pension contributions. That's the equivalent, just to give you a rough idea, of funding almost 14,000 police officers. Imagine if we could put 14,000 police officers on the streets. Imagine what that would do to his horrific record on teenage knife crime in this city. Imagine what that could do. And yet, he uses it on gold-plated bonuses instead. But it gets worse. Here's the next headline from the Telegraph, and here we see it in black and white. Transport for London spends £1 million on luxury flights and hotels. And here's the next headline as well. Sadiq Khan again, I mean, it's just hard to even consider that this is happening while people are out of work, while the economy is going down. All of these expenses are happening. It's luxury flights, it's hotels, it's taxis, it's vending machines. And this same article highlighted a series of wasteful TfL contracts worth more than £40 million. Let me give you the headlines. £24 million paid on taxis. £5 million paid on luxury coffee machines. £10 million for water coolers. And as you saw on that headline, £1 million on luxury flights. Is this the way we should be spending our money while we're bailing out the TfL? I think we both know the answer to that. But there's more. And you can see this new headline here, and you can see it here. Sadiq Khan's PR budget soars by 33% in 4 years. 33% in 4 years. And let me ask you a question. Do you think that during all of these budget cuts, during one of the biggest recessions in 300 years, that the mayor of London should be spending £1 million on his own personal PR? That's money that you pay for. What could that £1 million go for right now? The mental health, maybe doing something for our children, maybe helping the homeless, maybe trying to help entrepreneurs here in London that are struggling, maybe trying to help taxi drivers. But no, instead, he spent £977,912 on his own personal PR last year. And it gets worse. Here's the next headline. You can see it here. Critics slam Sadiq Khan for squandering £7.1 million per year from his police budget and his pen pusher executives. And also, he spends £1 million on a customer satisfaction survey. And you can see what this article says. Recent decisions made by the mayor's office for policing and crime include spending £1 million on customer satisfaction surveys. And it asks the public a question, how good are the police doing? That's how he spent the money. And it's ridiculous because that money could have been spent for 233 extra police officers. The last headline I want to share with you is this, and we all saw it happen on New Year's Eve, and this is what the headline said. Quote, a disgusting waste of money. London Assembly members slammed Sadiq Khan's £1.5 million New Year's Eve light show because he wasted that money. Let's talk about this. The article goes on to talk about this. London Assembly member Tony Devonish slamming it as a disgusting waste of money. He said, quote, stop politicizing New Year's Eve, Mr. Khan. It's for everyone. It's not for your own political campaign. Other people went on to say, quote, predictably disgraceful from this mayor. And the member of parliament, Andrew Briggan, said, quote, a politician uses his position and taxpayer money to make blatantly political statements. That's what we saw on New Year's Eve. He goes on to say, I hope the taxpayers of London remember that the next time they're asked to vote for a mayor. And we will remember that. On May 6th, we're going to remember that you spent £1.5 million of our taxpayer money for your own political campaign New Year's Eve show. That money could have been spent on homelessness. It could have been spent for the police in fighting knife crime. It could have been spent for the mental health of our children. And you blew it on a New Year's Eve celebration for your own campaign. These are the kind of wastages that are going on right now. And if this resonates with you, please leave me your comments right now, wherever you are. And also, please share this video with people that need to know, because they're not being told these things. You are seeing instead headlines about lockdown, headlines about how he's trying to protect you from this virus, but he's not telling you about how he's wasting your money during one of the greatest recessions in 300 years. So I want to hear from you. Again, share this video with someone who needs to see it right now. But answer these questions for me right now, and I'm going to be reading out all of your comments right now. First of all, do you think you, as the taxpayer, you think your money should be spent by the mayor on six-figure salaries, gold-plated pensions, first-class travel, his personal PR, and a publicly funded political campaign on New Year's Eve? Do you think that during a recession, the mayor should increase your transport fares, increase your council taxes, and also increase your congestion charges? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Next, do you think the mayor should allow the TfL to go bankrupt while he defunds the police, defunds the fire brigade, and also builds no houses with the £1.8 billion that he's received from the government? And finally, do you think we need new leadership? Do you think we need new ideas? And do you think we need to take London, the UK, and maybe your city in a new direction? So I'm going to go right now to your comments. It's a lot to process. And look, I'm not trying to bring everyone down. But if we can't hold people accountable for their blatant disregard for our taxpayer dollars, then what do we have? We don't have real politicians. And that's why we need to call this stuff out. And I'm going to read your comments out right now. Thank you so much, by the way. We've got Elle McPherson here, who's always following us. We appreciate you, Elle, for all the feedback you give us. And she said, quote, great job highlighting the current issues and providing alternative solutions. Thank you, Elle. We appreciate you so much for your support here. Elle lived in London for many years, and she really understands the problems that we're facing now, and she's a big supporter of us for Mayor of London. So thank you, Elle. We appreciate you. Travel Now Young Man on Instagram says, quote, Brian, I have seen few men pursue such high ideals in publishing in such a way that is for the good of all. Thank you. I appreciate the comments here. You know, we really love digging into the numbers and telling the truth here. And the truth is it's so easy because all of this stuff is in the public. We just need a media outlet that tells you the truth. And so many of them don't. And that's what we're here to do. Luzia Juliet on Instagram says, quote, thanks for your great work. Thank you, Luzia. I appreciate you. Leona Welsh on Instagram says, simply hashtag Brian for mayor. All right. We appreciate you, Lena. Thank you so much. Eben Strong on Instagram says, Brian might be the only politician in history who doesn't have his own best interests in mind when coming in to power, unquote. And thank you, Edmund. I appreciate that. To be honest with you, if I had my best interests in mind, I would just stay here in my business, in my broadcasting platform, doing what we do here. But honestly, I'm going to put all of that on hold. I'm going to put my life on hold so we can do what's best for the city of London. And that's what we're going to do for the next 3 years as your next mayor. We're very excited to do it. We've also got Shalin on Facebook saying, quote, I am making London my second home if Brian wins. And we appreciate you. Please, we want everybody to move back to London. It's shocking the number of people that have left this city because the current mayor is running it into the ground. The figures are hard to watch. It's hundreds of thousands, approaching 1 million people that have left this city. I want everyone to come back. We are going to make this city world-class once again, and we're going to show the world what a great city looks like when run properly. So yes, I appreciate, come back here. Crinkle Bunch on Instagram says, quote, an American mayor as the mayor of London. That would be amazing. And I appreciate that. The truth is London has a history of incredible, incredible diversity. Whether it was the Romans coming here thousands of years ago that built our roads and built this incredible infrastructure, built the baths, or maybe it was the Normans or the Saxons or the Vikings. Everyone has always come to London from foreign lands and made this a better city, and I look forward to doing my part. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. Rod Dumas on Instagram says, quote, Brian, you're the real deal here. Hashtag Brian for mayor. Thank you so much, Rod. I appreciate you. I'm just speaking the truth, and I'm trying to take London in a new direction. So thank you so much for that. We got Joseph Starr on Instagram says, quote, always in a good suit. I appreciate that. You know what? When I wear a suit in the morning, it just means that I'm being my best self that day. And it means that hopefully I'll be able to serve better, I'll be able to do better, I'll be able to lead better and inspire better. So for me, it's a reminder to myself that you better be on your best behavior today. You better make sure you always take everything to the next level. And so that's one of the reasons I dress this way. And thank you for noticing. I appreciate that. What else we got? UK Gab on Instagram says, always the best suits. Thank you very much. Badass Gem on Instagram says, get it, Brian. Thanks for the morning head start. I appreciate you, Gem. Let's go get some today. Michael Keenan on Facebook says, quote, I wish you live in Ireland. Be great to have a voice like you here to vote for. Thank you so much. I think when we turn London around, lots of cities around the world are going to be doing exactly what we do, which is getting our cities back to work, holding our politicians accountable, running things in a fiscally responsible manner, and just making science-based decisions. Trust me, you're going to see what happens. It's going to be amazing. We've also got Phoenix on Facebook saying, quote, you should be running the planet. The only problem is your straight talk and common sense, and politicians don't like that. And I know I've already had some criticism because we are telling it like it is. We say exactly what's going on, science-based decisions, fact-based decisions, data-based decisions. A lot of people don't like that, but that's also probably why we're in second place right now. Again, we're making history as we speak, and you are a part of this. And trust me, on May 7th, we are moving into City Hall. All of us are moving into City Hall to take this city in a new direction. Some great comments coming here as well from other parts on social media. We got Jay Fisher Cook on Instagram says, quote, increased fares are necessary to cope with pay rises for the employees. Obviously, if you raise the employees' salaries, you have to increase your fares. I don't think either one of those is acceptable, and I'm going to say no to that. This is simple economics. Any entrepreneur would see this in an instant, but the mayor has never run a business in his life, has never been fiscally responsible in his life. So how would he know? Of course he's going to do the opposite. Luke Rooney on YouTube says, quote, this con guy sounds like a colossal failure, unquote. I couldn't have said it better myself. I think you're right. To be honest, every single person I meet on the streets, people I meet in taxi drivers, they all say, we hate this guy. He needs to go, and he's a failure. So let's do this with our vote on May 6th. We've got Black Chulo on Instagram says, quote, London transport services are the most expensive I have ever paid. We need change. And it's true. We have some of the most expensive fares in major cities around the world. I think the most expensive fares in Europe right now. And what do we get for it? We get more money being paid for bailouts. It just needs to be run in a financially responsible way, and that's what I plan to do as your next mayor. A couple more comments here. Miss Sarah Marshall says, quote, "This is meant to be a democracy, not a dictatorship. It's appalling, isn't it? We need more Bryans." I agree. We've got to have fact-based decision, and that's what we're going to do. John Stoller on YouTube says, quote, "Get rid of Sadiq Khan. No wonder TFL is bankrupt. That's why I support Brian for mayor." Thank you, John. I appreciate you. We're going to make these changes, I promise. I've got F100 on YouTube says, quote, "Sadiq Khan does not have a clue how to manage the budget, which is why TFL went bankrupt. We need to change the current mayor. He will waste more of our money and fail us again. So vote for Brian Rose." Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Ian Brixton, boy, what's up, Ian? I see you here all the time. We appreciate your support. One of our regular contributors, I know you're amazing. He says, quote, "They're pushing people into fear, and it's causing people to be scared and turn blind eyes to the facts. I'm self-employed. I can work due to gyms being closed, and they've denied me of all the help in both grants and universal credit. It's sad to see no income, but yet bills," unquote. Ian, I appreciate what you're going through right now. Again, we need to find solutions, and it's unacceptable what they're doing right now to you, your business, your future, your livelihood. Simi Superstar on YouTube says, quote, "All dictators use fear. Totally with you, Brian. Transport fares should be frozen." I agree with you. And we've got Shaq Prime on Instagram says, quote, "My business has died. I understand that, and we're going to get London back to work and take it in a new direction." Couple last pieces here. Soldo Ray on Instagram says, quote, "Mate, if you can stop child poverty and improve race equality, I'll listen. Give nurses and teachers a standard 10,000 pound pay rise to stop dropout rates, and you have my vote. Give more free child care too." And this is incredible. I've got very specific initiatives when it comes to decreasing child poverty. I've spoken at length about this, and it's true. Starting tomorrow, we've got to make sure that everyone here has access to a fair society, that everyone here has the opportunities, that everyone here has affordable housing, that everyone here has access to lower crime. And the problem with a lot of these taxes, and I'm going to talk about this shortly, and I'm so glad you brought this point, is they're what is called regressive taxes. They hurt lower income people the worst. They hurt some of our BAME and minority groups the worst. The mayor is hurting those people even more than the rest of us. It's unacceptable, and you're going to see how my policies plan to change all that. So again, I appreciate you being here. Again, share this video right now if it's resonating with your people. And now, right now, I want to go on to part 2. And again, stay with me here. This is really important because now I want to talk to you about how the mayor has failed economically in his mismanagement of all of his departments, whether it comes to the TFL, to transport in general, to police, to fire, to his green initiatives, to the housing. It's all failure after failure after failure. And you can see this headline here coming straight from the BBC, and I'll read it out for you. "Boris Johnson blames London mayor for TFL bankruptcy before COVID-19. Before COVID. This is not talked about. This institution was going bankrupt before the pandemic ever happened." And you'll see this next headline as well, and I'll read it out for you. "Mayor Sadiq Khan is accused of mismanaging TFL financing as he demands more government money to prop up public transport in London just months after a £1.6 billion coronavirus bailout." And the truth is this: the TFL has gone nearly bankrupt twice last year alone. In a couple months, he's going to be asking for billions more in bailouts. And that article I just showed goes on to say, quote, "Over the past 4 years, Sadiq Khan has lost control of TFL's finances." Lost control of it. £13 billion in record levels of debt. 22 of the 26 major projects are currently delayed or canceled. 22 out of 26 major projects delayed or canceled. In the private sector, that person would have been fired at 4 projects out of 26 delayed or canceled. And yet this one is currently in office and wants to stay in office for 3 more years while he fails on 70, 80, 90% of his projects. It's unacceptable. And you can see this next headline, and I'll read it out for you. "Mayor Sadiq Khan announces £110 million in police cuts." Can you imagine that? £110 million in police cuts. And let me talk a little bit about what that headline means. And this time, when crime is soaring, when the mayor just recorded his 100th teenage murder on his watch, when we're seeing teenage knife crime and stabbings at all-time highs, he has decided to defund the police by 110 million pounds. Do you know that is the equivalent of 1,861 full-time salaried police officers? Imagine an additional 2,000 officers on the streets. That could be happening right now, and we could see those crime statistics going down, but it's not happening. He chooses instead to defund the police. But it gets worse. Let's look at what he's done for some of his green initiatives. And you can see this headline here, and it pretty much speaks for itself. Sadiq Khan criticized for backtracking on pledge for London Public Energy Company. And the truth is that he has failed on his green spending initiatives. And that article goes on to say that fewer than 4,000 London households have signed up to Sadiq Khan's green energy company that he set up this year for £3.2 million. Just another £3 million for your mayor. $1.5 million for politically campaign fireworks, another $1 million for luxury flights, another $1 million for his PR campaign, another $3 million on his failed green initiatives. This is how he spends your taxpayer money. Think of that. Someone who doesn't even think much about $1 million here, $1 million there. That could be used right now for the citizens of London. It's hard to actually believe, but it gets worse. And this is an article that was published by the Fire Brigades Union themselves. And you can see it here, and I'll read it out. And it says this: the Fire Brigade Union condemns unthinkable £25 million cut to the London Fire Brigade. And this is a highly respected union here in London, the Fire Brigade Union. And this article goes on to say that, quote, the Fire Brigade Union has vowed to fight the unthinkable proposals to cut the budget for the London Fire Brigade by £25 million as part of the Mayor of London's plans. And they go on to say they have condemned the plans, and they have called on Sadiq Khan to live up to his promise to protect frontline services. And we see this all the time. We see how he keeps talking about protecting our services and protecting our NHS. And what does he do in the background? He defunds them. And the article finishes by saying, quote, as Mayor of London, Boris Johnson delivered the biggest cuts in history to the London Fire Brigade. The London Fire Brigade says any further cuts to services will be dangerous to the public. And the truth is the two-party system has always done this to you. Whether it's Boris or whether it's Sadiq, they always find a way to run up debt for the TfL, to defund our essential services, and then they give you another choice after 4 years, and you get the other guys. And then you get the other guys, and you get the other guys. At the same time, it's the same agenda every single time. That's why we need new voices and an independent voice. And I just want to say at this moment to consider defunding the London Fire Brigade. When you look at the history of what's happened here in London, including the Grenfell tragedy 3 years ago, to even think about defunding the London Fire Brigade at a time when we could need them at a moment's notice, when there is so much work to being done to protecting some of our housing, it's unthinkable. And yet that's what our current mayor of London is doing. But it gets even worse. And you can see this final headline I have here, and I'll read it out for you. Sadiq Khan fails to build any social housing in his year as mayor. And this is something I've done an entire separate video about how he has failed to build the affordable housing that he promised. But in 2018, the government gave Sadiq Khan £1.8 billion to build affordable housing. How many has he built? I haven't seen any. Where has the money gone? I have no idea. Yet another example of how our current mayor doesn't know how to manage a major remit for the mayor. And it's unacceptable. You put this man in office so he could run the police, so he could run Transport for London, so he could run the fire brigade, so he could build housing for this city. And he has done none of it. He's caused it all to be defunded and going bankrupt. But why should we expect a man like this to be able to do this? He has no business experience. He's never shown any leadership. He's never done any deals. He's never worked with the private sector. So why should we expect him to do this? And I want to play a video for you right now. And this is a short excerpt from one of my previous Real Deals where I went into depth on the exact failures of Transport for London, the billions of pounds of debt being racked up. I go into detail about his fare increases. Again, I have more policy videos and detailed data analysis of this mayor than any candidate in history. And you can find it all on our website. You can find it all on my YouTube platforms. And I want to play this video for you now. And it's me highlighting the fact that when it comes to the current mayor, he has no experience in economics. He has no experience in finance. He has no experience in deal making. He has no experience in business. He has no experience in entrepreneurship. And he has no experience in the real world where I live, where I have been for the past 30 years, working in industries as varied from technology to startups, to engineering, to aerospace, to finance. I have been in these businesses and industries. I understand them. And one thing I do understand is you don't run them in a fiscally irresponsible manner. You make sure that budgets are hit, and you make sure that people are held accountable. And that's very, very important. So I want to play this video for you. Before I do, I want you to leave me your comments below and answer me these questions right now. Very, very important. Tell me, first of all, do you think the taxpayer money should be spent by your mayor on six-figure salaries, on gold-plated pensions, on first-class travel, on his personal PR, and on a publicly funded political campaign New Year's Eve show? Leave me your comments. Do you think that during a recession, the mayor should be increasing your transport fares, increasing your council taxes, and increasing your congestion charges? Leave me your comments. Do you think the mayor should be allowing the TfL to go bankrupt while he defunds the police, defunds the fire brigade, and also builds no houses with the 1.8 billion pounds he's received from the government? And finally, do you think we need new leadership? Do you think we need to take London in a new direction? Do you think we need new ideas? So please type in your comments now and watch this video from my Real Deal where I went into depth and talked about how the TfL has gone bankrupt under your current mayor. £26,000, 666 and 65 pence. That's what your household needs to pay. And again, I'll ask you this question: will that be cash or card? Let's be clear. This is our money. This is the money you work very, very hard for. It comes out of your paycheck as a tax. And I have a real problem when they go and overspend the money that both you and I work very, very hard for, that we could be spending on our families, that we could be spending to build businesses. They have no experience in economics, no experience in management, no experience in leadership, no experience in finance, and no experience in deal making in the entrepreneurial world, in the real world where I live. If you fail to balance your budget, you get eliminated. I have run businesses. I worked in the City of London in finance for 10 years. I know how to deal with these projects. I know how to hold people accountable. I know how to balance a budget, and I know how to run something that's fiscally responsible. And I'm not going to ask you as a taxpayer to pay for my failings or the people that work underneath me. I don't need your money to pay for the transport. When the economy is running, you're making money. You can pay for all the infrastructure build that you need. You can help build businesses that will create more tax revenues. What does our current mayor do? He is crusading for a lockdown. He wants to shut everything down, and yet then he whines and complains when his transportation infrastructure goes over budget, and he blames our prime minister. Is that the way to run a city? I think not. I know I can do it. I know I have the solution. I know exactly the policies to put into place. We're going to do this together. We're going to make London world class once again. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next week on Real Deal. And you can watch the full version of that Real Deal on our website, londonreal.tv. You can also find it on YouTube, our other social platforms. I've been doing live Real Deal broadcasts just like this every week, I think, for the past 3 months, each time going into a detailed policy and the detailed failings of your current mayor of London. I've spoken about housing, about families, about community, about education, about the lockdown, about entrepreneurship, economics, and you can watch more about that as well. So I appreciate that. Now I want to go to your comments. Again, leave me a comment, whatever platform you're at now. If you're watching this afterwards, leave me a comment anyways, because I want to see what people are saying. I got Prolific Trader on Instagram saying, hashtag Brian for Mayor, thank you very much. I've got Open Your Mouth blog on Instagram, says, quote, serve you, a concept forgotten. Thank you, Brian, and thank you. I appreciate that. And again, it's something I talk about very often. The Mayor of London has two jobs. It's actually a simple job. The first is to listen. The second is to serve, period. I don't see our current mayor, or our politicians for that matter, doing either one of those. They don't listen to us and they don't serve us. That's what we're going to do starting May 7th. So let's make this happen. Next, we've got Indimu on Instagram saying, quote, people need to break away from the political party structure we are forced to believe in. Trust someone independent who speaks for the people. Thank you very much. And it's true. My policies come from me. I don't have to get hundreds of people in a political party to rubber stamp them. I don't have to check with someone in Parliament to make sure I didn't hurt his or her feelings. I don't have to check with some corporate donor to find out that it's against their agenda. I just give it to you straight by the best idea I see out there. Sounds like a crazy concept, right? And I serve the people. Sounds like a crazy concept called democracy. Let's get this back on track, shall we? Q on YouTube says, quote, Brian is a leader. Much love from California. I started to listen to this guy when I was through some dark times, and this guy inspired me. I support Brian. Thank you so much, Q. I appreciate you. You know, we've been broadcasting content for the past 10 years. Half a billion people have watched our content around the world, and I am there to inspire you and take you to the next level and really provide a way for you to see how you can take your life to the next level. So I appreciate you very much. We got Mrs. Sarah Marshall on Instagram saying, quote, so many forget the actual people. Brian, you've got it all going on. More people like you needed in the country. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate you. And honestly, Sarah, I think there are so many people like me. I am the same as you, Sarah. I am the same as everyone else right now watching me right now. You care. You're sick and tired of this political machine, of this current crop of politicians with their backroom deals and their agendas and their careers as politicians, and we want change. I don't think it takes much. I think we all know what we want to do. Our hearts are in a good place. We just got to come together and move in the right direction. So thank you so much. I've got Philip Afton on YouTube says, from rural West Michigan, and the bottom of my heart, God bless and thank you. Thank you so much. I spent time in Michigan when I was working for Ford Motor Company. That's when I started learning about how to be fiscally responsible and work in a professional capacity when I was 19 years old, when I started interning at Ford Motor Company in Michigan. So this stuff is in my blood. That's why when I see these politicians do this fiscally irresponsible stuff, at first it doesn't even compute to me, because it's not in my DNA to not do what you say and to not, earn what you pay for. That's not in my DNA, so that's why I want to change this. So thank you very much. Gary S. May on YouTube says, we will endorse you. Thank you so much, sir. Tracy Liv on Instagram says, thanks, Brian, for being a spokesperson on this. My hubby and I have felt this way ever since last March. Thank you so much. Veronica on Facebook says, quote, stop knife crime, reopen schools, vote for Brian. Thank you, Veronica. I appreciate those statements, and I want to do all of those things. Again, I did an entire detailed hour-long plus reel about knife crime and the massive problems we're having right now as opposed to solutions. We need to reopen schools now. Our education is important. Our children's future is important. And thank you for the vote for Brian as well. We got Sean John on Instagram saying, backing you from Leeds, Brian for mayor. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We've got Gabriella Rose on Instagram says, go Brian. Yes, she is my daughter. She's actually doing an internship here at London Real right now. And I've got her out here. She's working 9-hour days, because I want her to know what it's like to work in the business world, where you have to be accountable, you have to show up, you have to do what you say you're going to do, you have to follow a schedule. So I appreciate you being here, Gabby. Make sure you're working hard today, you're showing up early, and you're staying late. We got Vibe Junkie 23 on Instagram says, quote, you will win because you speak the truth. Brian for mayor, thank you so much. We got DNAM on Instagram that asks, quote, how do we vote for you, brother? Hashtag Brian for mayor. DNAB, go to votefirst.london. It'll take you 5 minutes, register to vote. You'll get something in the mail, and then we vote by any means necessary on May 6th. Who knows? Might be by post, might be by going to the polls, but on May 6th, you got to go cast your vote for me to be your next mayor. Otherwise, all this is just conversation, unless we actually make it happen. So thank you so much. I appreciate. We've got Ms. Holy Moo on Instagram. Love the name. says, quote, I couldn't get to visit my dad, but I showed him London Real and it shattered his illusions. I appreciate that, Holy. The problem is your dad, like many people, all they do is they watch mainstream media, which sometimes means the BBC, which sometimes mean they believe everything they say. The truth is that they don't always publish the real facts, and a lot of times they're just a spokes channel for what the government says. They regurgitate it right back to our citizens. So I appreciate you sharing this. The truth is mainstream media isn't talking about what I'm talking about. That's because they are in cahoots with the political parties. If you show me any mainstream media outlet, they are either labor supporters or conservative supporters, which means by definition, they don't support independent ideas, they don't support science-based decisions, and they don't support new directions going forward. That's why we are necessary, and that's why you haven't heard this other places, and that's why you've got to share this content. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. We got a Heartstrong1 on Instagram, says, quote, good to hear an alternative voice. I don't think this is alternative. This is just the facts, and they're right in front of us, staring back at us. But thank you so much. I appreciate it. Abin Akla on Instagram says, quote, keep up the great work, Brian. I will. I'm doing it for you guys. C. Donovan Artist on Instagram says, quote, transform humanity into an empowered, conscious collective as mayor. That's our plan. We want to take everyone forward. Pratinum on Instagram says, quote, keep up the good work. Thank you. I will. Ruth Robo1 on Instagram says, quote, go, Brian. We need more people like you. Thank God you are tandying up these bullies. Let's get London back what it used to be. Quote, hashtag Team Brian all the way. I'm going to do that. I appreciate you. A few other comments coming in here. We got Alan on YouTube says, quote, the current mayor of London said again, quote, the current London mayor's waste of our money is disgusting and criminal. Put a stop to Khan's abominable politics now. Abominable politics now. Really well said. I appreciate that. Alex Presersidis on YouTube says, quote, the two-party corruption system has to go. I agree with you. Very well said. We've got to move away from this two-party system. Rob Williams on YouTube says, quote, Sadiq Khan and his ideology scares me. People like him should not be in power, unquote. And Street Matt on Instagram says, quote, Sadiq Khan couldn't run a bath. That's good. I like that. Let alone a world-class city, hashtag Brian for mayor. And it's true. He's got 27,000 employees reporting to him. He's got a 17 billion pound budget, and he's never run a business a day in his life. Does that sound correct to you? He's been a career politician for 20 years, and he gets reelected and asks for bailouts and raises your taxes when he fails to deliver. No wonder we're in the situation we're in right now. A few questions coming from me, and I really appreciate these. We got Christian on Facebook that says, quote, I am a London firefighter, Brian. I appreciate you, Christian. He goes on to say, what are you going to do for us? And that's a great question. And what I planned on doing is funding the fire services appropriately. It is not acceptable to defund the fire services and defund the police. But the problem is the current mayor doesn't look for solutions. He doesn't know how to think outside the box. He doesn't even know how to consider the budget in a different way. And that's why we have proposed some innovative solutions when it comes to our entire budget process. And we believe that there's a lot of potential in finding corporate sponsors to sponsor our community programs, corporate sponsors to provide mentorship to younger children, which is going to free up areas of the budget that we can give to our essential services. You're going to see me talking a lot more about this moving forward, and it's an incredible question, but defunding the fire brigade, that's unacceptable in my book. So thank you for your question. Logic Reason Contest on Instagram says, quote, I'm not sure if I should vote for you or the conservative candidate. And I appreciate that. A lot of people, they always vote the way their parents have voted. They vote because they've always seen that person vote because they thought it was the interest of their family and their generation. But the truth is this. When you look at the conservative candidate, he seems like a nice person, but he's not a leader that can take this city to the next level, especially in a challenging time like we're in with COVID right now. But I want to get London back to work. I believe that when we strengthen our economy, we strengthen everyone. We give you money in your pocket. We give tax receipts for our city. We help fund the TFL. That is how we're going to move forward. But I also want to build affordable housing. I also want to make sure we invest in our communities. I also want to make sure we empower our police to fight crime in a better way. And we can do all of these things. So I understand that your parents might have voted for Labor and your parents might have voted for Conservative. The truth is those parties, they know you're going to vote for them. They're not even trying to get their vote. The current mayor of London isn't even lifting a finger to get your vote because he knows you're going to vote for him. But if you want 3 more years of this and you don't vote for a change, well, you're complicit in this. And you are responsible for defunding the police. You are responsible for knife crime in this city. You are responsible for the London Fire Brigade not having the money they need. You are responsible for congestion charge increases. So think about that before you vote Conservative or Mayor. Seriously, meditate on that. And look at me, look at my policies, look at my history, look at my track record, and think about that. Because I can do more than either one of those candidates, and probably both of them combined. Some of the great questions coming in here. Maya Noda on Instagram says, quote, how can a non-Londoner but resident support you? Great question, honestly, great question. So first of all, a non-Londoner can support us in so many ways. You can share these videos. You can buy our merchandise. You can donate to our campaign. You can tell all your friends about us. The truth is, the ideas that I'm talking about are ideas for every city in this country. You saw Leeds are supporting us. We got people in Manchester supporting us. We have people in Liverpool supporting us. We have people all over supporting us. We've got people in New York City, in Los Angeles, in Paris, in Madrid, in Frankfurt. All of those people want to support us because they believe in our ideas. So there's lots of ways you can support us. You can buy our merchandise. You can support our campaign. You can share ideas. You can tell your friends and family. It's really important that we do that. And again, if you live in London, you can register to vote. You don't have to be a citizen. You can make it happen. So go to votefirst.london right now and check it out. You just need a national insurance number, which you can get if you don't have. I show you how to do that on the video, and you can register now, post it on social media so you can show me, #VoteFirst. Couple more questions here. Shaq Prime on Instagram says, Brian, quote, will you remove the congestion zone? Brian, this is my exact plan, and I'm going to detail this at the end of the video. I am proposing a 6-month congestion charge holiday. That means we eliminate congestion charges for 6 months. Why are you doing this, Brian? Do you like cars in our city? No, I don't. But I recognize that the only way to kickstart the economy is more people in this city. To do that, you have to encourage them to drive in, to travel in, to come in any way. Our streets are ghost towns right now. So we're going to have a 6-month congestion charge holiday and a 6-month business rate holiday. It's simple economics. I studied economics at MIT in the Sloan School of Business. You know, in order to promote business, you don't tax businesses. It's the worst thing to do. We need a congestion charge and business rates holiday for 6 months. Then I want to rethink the entire process. But I have creative ways to fund transport that's going to result in us not increasing congestion charges. And there's more detail about that in my website. That's a fantastic question. Keep them coming. I like hard questions. That's what my wife says when I go speak at Tower Hamlets, and I spoke at Hackney. She introduces me on stage, and right before she ends, she said, make sure you ask him hard questions. That's what my wife says. So I want your hard questions. Anytime, anywhere. Last question here. We got Lish on Instagram says, quote, has the mayor election been postponed towards next year? It's a great question, Lish. There has been rumors. Our prime minister has been hinting at elections being postponed, and other members of the council here in London have been hinting about it. We believe that that is a fundamental incorrect decision when it comes to your basic human right as a democratic process, as a citizen in that process. I believe postponing elections is fundamentally wrong. We've already postponed elections here by a year. The current mayor of London technically shouldn't be in office. You never voted him in for a 5-year term, and yet he's in there right now, raising your taxes, raising your transport fares, raising your congestion charges. He's in there right now bankrupting the TfL. He's in there right now with his gold-plated pension programs, spending money on luxury flights. He's in there right now not building houses and yet taking the money from the government. Is it really acceptable that we give him even one more day in office without being held accountable to the voters? I don't think so. I don't think so. So we do not believe in postponing these elections. Make them happen, because how long? How long is it going to be? A month? 3 months? 6 months? A year? 10 years? Democracy breaks down. It shouldn't have even happened this long. So we are all against, and we'll have a petition in Parliament going live shortly to where you can sign that to make sure that our elections aren't postponed. So look, I want to finish up with this final section. I appreciate you being here. And again, please share this video if this is resonating with you. And I want to talk about this final, yet this is probably the worst part of what the current mayor of London is doing to you. And that is how the current mayor is raising your taxes to fund his incompetence and his wasted spending. And you'll see this headline here, which was posted less than a week ago, and I'll read it out to you. Sadiq Khan reveals his biggest ever hike of council tax share at nearly 10%. Now, let me read this. The article goes on to say, quote, Sadiq Khan today revealed plans to hike his share of council tax by almost 10%, the biggest increase in his time as mayor. And it goes on to say, quote, it means that many London households face a total hike of £100 or more once their local borough council increases, likely to be 5%, is also included. Think about that. 10% increase in council taxes when the economy is shrinking by 10%. And we're in our greatest recession in over 300 years. I don't know many people that have an extra £100 that they can just splash out in taxes. The way the current mayor splashes out £1 million here and £1 million for luxury fights and £1 million for a fireworks display and £1 million for his PR. That's what the London mayor does. Well, we don't have that money to spend. So no thank you. We don't have that money. And it's not okay to increase our council rates. And here's another headline from the Evening Standard, and I'll read it out for you here. Quote, Sadiq Khan plans to increase his share of your council tax again. And everyone's reporting on this. And here's another headline as well, and I'll read it out for you as well. London tube and bus fares to rise by more than inflation. And let's talk about that right now. First of all, back in 2016, your current mayor of London campaigned on the promise to freeze your fares. And yet now he's raising your fares by more than inflation. How does that even make sense? Again, in the greatest recession in over 300 years, he's breaking his promises. He's raising your fares. He's raising them by more than inflation. And the truth is, there is even more to come. As you can see from this next headline by The Telegraph, and I'll read it out for you now. Sadiq Khan forced to hike congestion charge as a condition of the government bailout. And again, I'll read off to what he said here. And it says, I quote, the £15 congestion charge, which was increased, quote unquote, temporarily, we all remember that, from £11.50 last June, and then extended into the evenings and the weekends, can you imagine, will now remain in force until at least October, City Hall is saying. October now. How long is this going to last? Increased now to weekends, now to 24/7, now to October. And again, this is a regressive charge, which means this. The current mayor of London is hurting lower income residents worse than anyone else. He is hurting you worse than else. And it goes on to say, quote, Mr. Khan has previously admitted concerns that the regressive council tax hits lower income households hardest. You know what? Admitting concerns doesn't pay the bills, Mr. Mayor. It doesn't pay the bills. So it doesn't help us when you come out and you say you were forced to do things. It doesn't come out when you blame the Prime Minister. It doesn't help when you admit concerns that it hits us in our savings accounts. What it helps is when you don't do these things to us. And that's what we're calling out. But it gets even worse. And you can see this by the next headline, and I'll read it out to you. Sadiq Khan is set to introduce new London road charges in 2021, raising prices for millions. And I'll read out what this article says. Transport for London has confirmed that the current ULEX, that's the ultra-low emission extension zone, will expand from October, which will push thousands of residents into paying the heavy charges, more taxes from your mayor. It goes on to say, quote, the new plans will expand the charge to a larger zone, which will then be bounced by the North Circular and the South Circular roads. So again, even a bigger zone. The new scheme will charge drivers £12.50 per day. Do you have that money? Per day. Even in the outer London areas previously unaffected by any of these charges. This is real money. And it's going to hit us all when a lot of us don't have jobs, our savings are going down, and we see no end in sight, and the future looks bleak. And all the time that the mayor is spending that money and causing these institutions to go bankrupt, he's now asking you to pay the bills as taxpayer. I personally find this unacceptable, to raise your taxes, and we need to hold him to an account right now. And I want to talk to you and ask you these final questions now as we finish up. Do you think that taxpayer money should be spent by your mayor on these things. Should your taxpayer money be spent on six-figure salaries? Should your taxpayer money be spent on gold-plated pensions? Should your taxpayer money be spent on first-class travel, on vending machines? Should your taxpayer money be spent on his personal PR? Should your taxpayer money be spent on his political campaign New Year's Eve show? Tell me what you think. Next, do you think that during a recession, the mayor should increase your transport fares, should increase your council taxes, and should increase your congestion charges? Tell me what you think. Do you think the mayor should allow the TfL to go bankrupt? Do you think he should defund the police? Defund the fire brigade. One of those members was talking to us right now. And also build no houses with the 1.8 billion pounds that he received from the government. And finally, do you think we need new leadership? Do you think we need new vision and new ideas to take us in a new direction? This is your final chance to comment. So please type in your comments right now. I'm going to be reading them out. And now, after that, I want to tell you how we're going to fix all of this. I want to explain how we can take London in a new direction, how we can get London back to work, and we can solve so many of these issues. And I appreciate these comments coming in. Wow. And a lot of people say, Brian, you read a lot of comments because that's because you're important. Your voice matters. As your next mayor of London, my job is to listen to you and to serve you. And I'm showing that I do it here right now. That's why I'm reading these comments out, because it's so important. I've got Alexander D on YouTube says, quote, "You are literally making me have tears of joy running down my face. Good for you, Brian. Go, go, go." Thank you, Alexander. You're going to make me cry if you keep saying that. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I get this energy from all of you. I really do. This doesn't come from caffeine or sugar or anything. It comes from all of you. So thank you so much. Antonella Venice on YouTube says, quote, "Love you, Brian. Keep speaking the truth. We are all fed up with these politicians who don't care about the people." And Antonella, you said it right there. Almost everyone I meet on the street says two things. They say, we don't like the current mayor. And then when they leave, right when they leave, they said, Brian, he doesn't care about us. And it's so obvious. He just doesn't care. He doesn't care. And his policies reflect that basic human emotion. He doesn't care. Let's find someone who cares and watch how this city turns around 180 degrees fast. That's ultimately what we need, someone who actually cares. So thank you for pointing that out. We got UK Breaks on YouTube that says, quote, "What a breath of fresh air. Full support, Brian. If only there were more people in power like yourself." Thank you so much. Again, I'm just speaking the truth. I never wanted to be a politician. I never dreamed about being a politician. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do. And if it wasn't for me, there's no chance of us having a new mayor. He's going to be there 3 more years if it's not for me. No other candidate stands a chance. So that's why I'm doing this, and I appreciate your support. It's great to hear. I got Ryan Toon on YouTube says, "I love you, Brian. I send your best wishes from Texas." Thank you so much. The truth is that the mayor of London is now a global campaign, because everyone in the world has seen what's wrong with their cities, and they hear our ideas, and they say, that's what we want in our city. So it might sound strange, but we appreciate your support in Texas for the next mayor of London. We want your support, and we need your support. Because if we can turn London around, imagine how quickly the other cities in the world could turn around too. So thank you so much. I think ideas are universal. Great energy is universal. People caring about other people is universal. And I think that's why people resonate with this message. So thank you so much. We've got Tori Hunter on Instagram that says, quote, "Never Brian for mayor. Brian should be prime minister. Sort this mess out. Hashtag Brian for mayor." Thank you so much. A lot of people say that as well. Let's focus on London first. And let's show the world what we can do here, and then we'll worry about what's next. I've got Alafez on Instagram says, "You go, Brian." Thank you, sir. Ashes to Paradise on Instagram says, quote, "Brian, you would achieve honest progress for London." Thank you so much. I appreciate that. We got Erica Holly Fit on Instagram says, quote, "Brian, you are the one who should lead this country," unquote. I appreciate that. I got the Part-Time Flyer on Instagram says, quote, "Really thankful to have a new take on Mayor of London, supporting you all the way, Brian." Thank you. I appreciate that. I got 11 Milan euros on Instagram says, quote, "You are already doing more than the current mayor." Thank you so much. I appreciate that support. We got Alistair Blair on Instagram says, quote, "Watching from Australia. The work you are doing is phenomenal." Thank you so much. And again, this is the global campaign. So if you're watching this in any country around the world, share this. Talk to your friends and family about it, because I really think that these ideas are universal. We've got Alexander D on YouTube says, quote, I appreciate this man right here. I'm super stoked you did this. I watched you for 6 years. You are a good man. Thank you, Alexandra. And, you know, a lot of people don't know that we've been doing this for 10 years. All right? We've been broadcasting new ideas and new information for 10 years at London Real, 500 million views on our platform. So I appreciate you. This isn't our first rodeo, and we plan on taking this to the next level. We got Volusia on Instagram says, quote, sending my love from Croatia. It's time to wake up. Hashtag Brian for Mayor. Thank you so much. We got Serenix Flux says, quote, got the London Real t-shirt and sharing you every day. Thank you so much. And people can get Brian for Mayor t-shirts on our website. So thank you so much. We got Frankie Shea on Instagram says, quote, you're a true Londoner. And I mean that. Thank you, Frankie. I appreciate that. I am a Londoner. I am a Londoner. That's the thing. You know, people get caught up sometime in the accent. But I'm a Londoner through and through, man. It's in my bones. I've been here 20 years. My children were born here. I'm a citizen. I plan on being buried right in this beautiful city. So I bleed London, and I plan on taking the city to the next level. So thank you so much. We've got a couple more comments here. Let me see. Oh, we got Baker with a beard. These names are amazing. Thank you so much. Says, quote, set the standard for the whole UK, Brian. I plan on doing that. Thank you, Barrett. And we can do that here. That's why this race is so important. Baron Castro on Instagram says, quote, make London real again. Ooh, I like that. That's a great thing. I appreciate that's a great tagline. Kenny Judy on Instagram says, go on, Brian. Appreciate you. Lubo Rap on Instagram says, Brian for Mayor and beyond. Thank you so much. Sophie Bid on Instagram says, you are amazing, Brian. You give me hope. Thank you, Sophie. I appreciate you. Clippa Hands on Instagram says, you got my vote. Thank you, Clippa. Make sure you go to votefirst.london, register, and let's all vote May 6th and make this happen. That's how we're going to do this. We have to be vigilant on this. Anne-Marie on Instagram says, quote, you are the best coach and leader for London. Thank you, Anne-Marie. I appreciate you. A few last comments here, and then I want to give you the solutions. The LP Unknown on YouTube says, quote, what is happening in UK is madness. And it's so true. We are currently one of the lowest performing major cities in the world. London is an embarrassment to the world. That's why I'm running for mayor, because I couldn't sit by and watch this current crop of politicians run the city I love into the ground. And let's be honest, that's what they're doing right now. They're ruining our futures, our children's futures, and it's not acceptable, and it could be changed so quickly with the right ideas, the right policies, and the right support. So I appreciate that. Let's take that madness, let's take that upset feeling, that anger, let's turn it into action, let's vote, and let's go in a new direction. I got Babsy Keenan on YouTube says, quote, they have all failed. It's criminal what they are getting away with. And you make some great points there, Babsy. Right now, they are denying you your human rights, period. You have a right to make a living. You have a right to support your family. You have a right to send your children to school. You have a right to leave your home. You have a right to exercise. You have a right to vote. They are denying every single one of those rights, and it's about time someone stood up and say, no more. This is no longer acceptable. We need new leadership. We need new ideas, and let's go in a new direction. So thank you for that comment. I appreciate that. We got Spellbinder 101 on YouTube says, quote, he's going to be a modern day Nero and fiddle while London burns, and it's true. Look at what our leaders are doing right now. They are not paying attention to the crisis on the ground, and let's be honest, this city is burning. Just like it was back in 1666. The whole city burned to the ground. And that's what's happening right now. And our Prime Minister and our Mayor of London are off doing something else. They're spending £1 million on luxury flights. They're spending £1 million on their personal PR. They're spending £40 million on coffee makers and water coolers. Meanwhile, the citizens here, we're dying. Our city is burning. Our children's future is disintegrating, and they are not in touch, and they're watching it all happen. It's not acceptable. We've got to take it in a new direction. A couple more comments here. We've got Kasla on Instagram says, no, no, no. Put our current crop of politicians on the lowest wages and see how fast it changes. I couldn't agree with you more. We've got to hit them where it hurts. No more gold-plated pensions. No more six-figure salaries. No more employees making £508,000 during one of our greatest recessions. It's not acceptable. A couple more comments here. Marilyn on Facebook says, quote, I have lived and worked in London from the age of 5 to 55, and it breaks my heart to see and hear what is happening. Hoping for change. Hashtag Brian for Mayor. Marilyn, I appreciate you. And again, I think real Londoners can see what we're talking about here. And they know it's time to take London in a new direction. It's as simple as casting your vote. On May 6th, we're going to make history. Make sure you register, and let's take the city in a new direction. A couple more here. It's great stuff happening. I really appreciate all these comments. We got Cassia on Instagram saying, quote, "They forgot they work for us." Amen to that. They work for us. Let's show them with our vote on May 6th. Steph on Instagram demands that we, quote, "open up the economy." I couldn't agree with you more. When we strengthen the economy, everything else strengthens. It's a simple lesson I was taught at the Sloan School of Management at MIT. It's a simple economic lesson. Everyone knows, but we're not applying it right here. Let's do it right now. FizzBG on Instagram says, quote, "Let's get back to work and living our lives. This is a slow death." It's true. Lockdown is causing 10 times more deaths than it's preventing, period. I've done a whole special on this. We've got Ed. Angelico says, quote, "As a London bus driver, I voted for Khan on his promise that he would raise our wages. Big mistake. I hope you take care of TfL better than he did." And Ed, I appreciate your frustration with our current mayor. I appreciate the fact that he lied to you. I appreciate the fact that he's running your organization, TfL, into the ground and bankrupting it. And I know I can take care of it better than he can. I know I can run it in a fiscally responsible manner. Give me your vote. Watch this happen. That's something that you can bet on. All right, final couple questions here. Jet Grizzly on Instagram says, quote, "If you become a mayor, will you change the lobbying?" Well, the great news is that I don't have any lobbyists. I don't respond to lobbyists. I don't have corporate fundraisers or donations, so I don't pay attention to any of that. This is the beauty of what we can accomplish on May 6th as your next mayor of London. We can run a city of 9 million people with a 17 billion pound budget where there are no lobbyists, where there are no members of parliament. There's no two parties to tell us what to do. This is our one chance to use an independent voice and show the world what a city can do. So yeah, there's no issues with that. That's the beauty of this role. So let's make it happen. Angus Rhodes on Instagram says, quote, "Brian, will you promise to defend the police?" And that's a great question. As opposed to defund the police is what the current mayor of London does. You know, I spoke this week to a very senior member inside the Met Police. And I had a long conversation, it was over an hour, talking about the issues that he faces and the lack of funding he faces from the mayor, the lack of support they get when it comes to fighting knife crime. And the truth is this, the police need our support. They need better training. They need more officers on the street to do a job that is difficult. And I think we can empower them, but the way you don't empower them is by removing 110 million pounds from their budget. Yes, we need to demand more transparency for them. We need them to release that body camera footage immediately, but he wanted that footage released. I think there's good people in that department, but they're not being allowed to do their job properly by the current mayor of London, and that's something that we're going to change on May 6th. And the last question here on YouTube is, quote, "Here's a question, can you win and can you deliver on your promises?" And the answer is yes, and yes, we can win. We're in second place right now and moving into first, but I need your help. I need you to go to votefirst.london and register and make sure you vote. We are going to win, and we are going to take this city in a new direction, and you've got my promise on that. Let's talk about the final part here, and I want to talk about this. My plans are to be your next mayor of London. I've got an entire set of 12 detailed policies of how we're going to do that, including how to get London back to work. But I want to say this before we proceed. It's all about experience, it's all about character, and it's all about someone who cares about the people and wants to serve the people. And as I said before, look at our current mayor of London. He's never run a business in his life. He's never run a project in his life. He's never been a leader in his life. He's never been a businessman. He's never been a deal maker. He's never worked in finance. Why would we expect him to know how to balance a budget? Why would we expect him to hold people accountable? Why would we expect him to do what he says he's going to say? He's got no history of it. So how could he run 27,000 employees in a 17 billion pound budget? There's no way he could. On top of that, he's fiscally irresponsible and he's wasting your taxpayer money. But when you look at me, you see someone very different. Since the age of 19 years old, I was working for a major auto company. I was in industry. I worked in technology. I worked in startup. I worked in aerospace. I worked in finance on Wall Street, in Chicago, and in the city of London. I've worked as an entrepreneur here in London for 10 years. I know what it's like to pay people's salaries, to make payroll, to have to manage my business fiscally responsible, or I'm dead and all of my employees lose their jobs. I know what that's like, and it means you make hard decisions. It means that you have to hold people accountable, and it means that you have to have a vision for the future that you stick with, and you have to fulfill your promises. That's the world I come from. 30 years of understanding industries across the board, of holding people accountable, of understanding investment, of paying employees. That's where I come from, and I grew up understanding that world. And that's what I can bring to the office of mayor. And that's something we've never actually seen in the office. We've only seen politicians, career politicians, who spend 20, 30, 40 years promising you things, not delivering, raising your taxes, asking for bailouts. And they do it over and over again. Why? Because you vote for them. If you want to break this cycle, you've got to stop voting for these traditional two parties of Labor or Conservative. They do not have the experience and they do not have the vision to get this city back to work. And that's what I want to do. My main policy, if you go to brianformayor.london, is, you'll see it on the front page, get London back to work. If we strengthen the economy, all things strengthen. It means you get to go back to work. You can make money. You can save money. You can invest in your children's future. We get tax receipts for the government, who can then fund the police. The Transport for London gets revenues so they can then pay for all of the expansion that they need to do. By strengthening the economy, you also get people back to work, which helps our mental health. We also get the NHS back on track and back funded. Everything comes from getting London back to work, which is why it's my lead policy. And I want to talk about how we're getting London back to work, because it means this. We're going to stimulate key sectors such as arts, hospitality here in London. We're going to encourage the safe return of office workers. Yes, very important. And implement science-based protocols. This is important. Citywide, so we can safely get people in London back to work, back to shop, and back to visit. This is something the mayor has ruined in this city. He has used fear to where no one wants to come to the city. Londoners don't, British people don't, international people don't, because they think you come here and you die. That's the worst thing to do. We need to encourage people that there's a safe way back to the city and to start spending their money. As an entrepreneur, I understand the struggles faced by small and medium-sized enterprises, which make up 98% of the businesses here in this city. So I'm going to prioritize supporting these critical parts of our commercial landscape, and I want to improve this city for every one of its 9 million inhabitants. And I want to talk about my plan of attack and my key policies. As I mentioned before, I want to do this. I want to create a 6-month post-lockdown congestion charge holiday. And this removes these prohibitive taxations in order, like the congestion charge, in order to safely promote visits to the city and boost the economy. And again, I'm not pro-automobile, but I'm pro-business because I'm pro-citizen and I'm pro-economy, which means for 6 months, we have to find any way possible to get as many consumers in this city so we can get this economy back on track. So that's my post-lockdown congestion charge holiday. We also need a 6-month post-lockdown business rates holiday. We got to remove business rates across the board and promote our small and medium-sized businesses. Next, we need to stimulate those key sectors. Like I said, specifically hospitality. They've been hurt so bad. Restaurants, cafes, nightclubs, retail, and the hotel sector as well. Next, we've got to encourage the return of office workers. I worked in the City of London for almost 10 years. I know these financial institutions. I would go and see the top 25 CEOs of the global financial institutions and legal firms and consultancy firms as well. And I would sit down to them and say this: what's it going to take to safely get 25% of your workers back in London? What's it going to take? Let's find a way to make it happen. Maybe you need some tax breaks. Maybe we talk about a way that we can work together on a new building project that's also going to bring revenues to this city, but let's find out how we can do it. Let's innovate. Let's find a solution. That's the way I would attack this problem and get this city working again. Our current mayor, he just wants to lock us down and lock us down and lock us down. He's got no ideas, no innovations, no solutions. The next thing I would do is implement new science-based protocols for retail and hospitality establishments to deal with the virus responsibly, but still stay in business. I want to safely open up our theaters, our museums, our concert arenas, and our stadiums, and I want to promote the use of outdoor seating and the use of street parking spaces for our retail and our hospitality sectors. Months ago, I went to a coffee store chain called Caffeine and met with their CEO and founder, Peter Dorsmith. And I was inside having a coffee with him. He said, "Brian, let me show you something." And we walked out on the streets, and there were two parking spaces that were empty that had tables and chairs there. And he said, "Brian, this is how I managed to stay alive. This is how I managed to keep 30 people employed and keep paying my workers, because I can use this street parking to serve people in a COVID-safe way." And he said, "You know what the mayor of London is doing? Westminster Council is trying to charge me £1,000 a week for these tables." It was something ridiculous like that. He said, "That's crushing my business when I'm here trying to innovate." And I said, "Peter, that's not acceptable. As your next mayor of London, I'm going to give you these spaces for free to promote business." And that's what we're going to do to promote getting London back to work. And finally, it sounds obvious, but it's not happening right now. We're going to get our children back to school. This stimulates all the sectors surrounding the schools. It gets teachers back to work, it pays their salaries, and it promotes the economy. And again, we've got to promote commerce and trade. That's why London exists in the first place. We didn't come here because we just like hanging out with each other. We didn't come here to promote the arts. We came here originally because of commerce, and that's what created this great city. But we forgot that. Let's get back to our basics, let's get back to our roots, and let's promote this. And I know by working with experts in the fields, and again, I've already spoke to key stakeholders in the transport sector, the police sector, in the housing sector, in businesses, technology, and finance, and they all agree with my policies, and they all know that these are going to get us back on track and get London back to work. And I'm excited to share more of these policies with you. They're all on my website, brianformayor.london. Again, putting science first, putting our health first, putting our education first, putting family first, putting communities first, making London safe again. They're all mixed together. And again, I had long conversations this week with high-level police officers, people in the communities. They all agree that these are all interlinked. And with bringing corporate sponsors in to our youth and mentoring them, that's going to help us prevent crime, which is going to help us save money from the police. These are all linked, and I've got a solution to attack all of these issues, and it's going to happen on May 6th. On May 6th, you get a choice. You can cast your vote, and you can take London in a new direction. And that's our plan. As your next mayor of London, I'm going to take this city in a new direction. We have 12 detailed policies on our website. We've got videos for each policy. And we are all in on taking London to a new direction. We are currently in second place in this race, about to go into first place to become your next mayor of London. And now is the time to cast your vote for a new system. No longer for the two-party system. The Labour, the Conservative parties with their hundreds of years of history, their tens to hundreds of millions of pounds in fundraising, their career politicians, their corporate fundraisers. We need to say no, because these people don't innovate. These people don't listen to you. Why would they bother? They get your vote every year anyways. Why would they change things up? These are old institutions. We need new ideas. We need to shake things up. We need someone in there who can take this city in a new direction. And honestly, I am privileged. I am honored to be the person that can take your ideas and actually implement them and move them forward. The sad truth is this: if it's not me, there is no chance of having any of what I've just told you change in the next 3 years. You get 3 more years of the current mayor. I am the only person standing in the way of 3 more years of wasted money, increased taxes, fiscal irresponsibility, increases in knife crime, affordable housing not being built, defunding the police, defunding the fire. I mean, the list goes on. And if you don't go out of your way, register to vote, and vote for me, then you are complicit in 3 more years of these policies. And I know that's a heavy thing to say, but it's true. So if you're a Londoner or you know a Londoner, share this video with them. Share our website and say you need to go register to vote, and you need to look at what Brian Rose is saying. Look at his policies. And if you're feeling his ideas, if you're feeling his energy, if you look at him and say, yep, this is the guy that can take us in a new direction, then vote for him. And if you want 3 more years of what you've seen over the past 12 months, the past 24 months, if you want 3 more years of that, well, then vote for the other guy. And that's the clear choice we have right now. So I want to thank you all for being here. Again, it's my honor to serve you. I'm serving you right now. That's my job. My job is to listen to you. We spend hours and hours and hours every day compiling these ideas to present to you. And again, I want you to look at these ideas and make your own choice. You have an independent voice. Share these with other people. Have these conversations. But if you come to the conclusions that I do, then it's this. We've got to take London in a new direction. We've got to go vote. We've got to go make change. And that's the only way we have a chance for our future, for our children, for our health, for our mental health. And I know we can do it. I am so excited on May 6th to shock the world. I'm so excited on May 7th. I feel like all 9 million of us are going to move into City Hall. We're going to take this city in a new direction, and we're going to show the world how a major city can change quickly. And I honestly believe that other cities will follow. New York City will follow. Los Angeles will follow. Paris, Madrid, Frankfurt. They will all say, why don't we do it that way? Look at what London is doing. And I think the whole world could get back on track. But it starts in London. I want to say I appreciate you. Again, please, if this resonated with you, forward this to all your social media contacts. Share this information. Talk to your friends about it. Come to brianformayor.london. You can share our assets. You can get your t-shirts. You can donate to our campaign. I really appreciate you. We're going to keep fighting every single day. And I will see you next week on Real Deal. Thank you so much. At London Real, we believe that individual transformation can change the world. Join us and start your journey today.